about boxing in what I can honestly say has been a very, very strange day. Yeah. So I'll keep this introduction brief. Sean, thank you for joining us. And thank you for joining us as ever. Yeah. I'm just going to have to go straight into it because probably an hour might not be long enough. So, toss of a coin who goes first on this one, but I'll go with Ander. Ander, start, if you can, start to break down what's just happened with Ben versus Eubank.
You know what, mate? I don't even know where to start. First and foremost, if the Daily Mail hadn't broke this story, we probably wouldn't know about it, and the fight would have gone on Saturday night, and then something would have come out afterwards. Because the problem is, the A sample's come out from VADA. The B sample hasn't even been tested yet, which I find crazy. But you know the weirdest thing, Carl, was let's just wind it back to yesterday. So the news breaks on, was it the Daily Mail, Sean?
Yeah.
The news breaks on the Daily Mail. And then I put DAZN on, and they're carrying on with the public workout like nothing's happened. I mean, you could tell. You could tell that Darren Barker and he didn't really know what to say. They did, to be fair to the pair of them, they did a really good job considering. They had a lot of fill time there because they didn't even know whether Ben or Eubank were going to turn up. They obviously had to be very, very careful about what they said when they did say something. And I think when they actually got Ben and Eubank in front of the camera, and Callis Ireland to some extent, they did really well with what they could say and couldn't say. So hats off to them too. But have you ever seen a more bizarre situation in boxing where undercard fighters are going about the business, you know, doing this public workout, and then Benny Eubank did the same thing, like nothing was going on?
But Ben looked very preoccupied, didn't he, in his warm-up?
He's going to intimate. I have to say, and I said it on Twitter, and I'll say it again now, that I think Eubank did a brilliant job yesterday. He was so professional. He could have lost the plot. He could have called Ben all the names under the sun. He didn't do any of that. He was very, very professional, acted in the right manner, answered the questions professionally, and got on with his business. He's gone up in my estimations because of the way he's acted over this. I know he's put something out on Twitter today that kind of has a little bit of a dig, but can you blame him? You know, he's gone through this training camp that's probably half killed him, no matter what it says about the 60% bollocks.
Money.
You know, yeah, I mean, how much does it cost to put a training camp on? Paying sparring partners, paying this, paying that, paying the other. He's not going to see a penny of that back unless he gets it back from the British Board of Control if they sue him. But he ain't saying that for a while. And I don't care how much money he's got in the bank. That shouldn't matter. Matter of the fact is he's now out of pocket. We'll come to whether we think it's the right decision later on. I found the whole situation really, really bizarre. The fact as well that Eddie Hearn didn't make an appearance on that broadcast. Very, very strange, mate. Very strange. You know, he threw Ben in front of the camera. Callis Ireland went in front of the camera. But Mr. Hearn wasn't anywhere to be seen. Very odd. I'll leave it at that as my first my first impressions. Sean, I'm sure Carl wants to come to you next.
Yeah, I mean, Sean.
I mean, it's just a bad look all round, isn't it? I think the only one that does come out looking good is I think they sort of tried to sweep it all under the carpet until today. It's just beggars belief, really. I mean, not too long ago, slam when it suited him, and now the shoe's on the other foot. You know, I don't think he's got a leg to stand on, really. And although we come out for 3 minutes doing the little speech at this press conference this evening, I think he doesn't think everyone's going to like it's some sort of big scandal, because in his head he thinks he can get whether the reality is if he's found a test or not. At the moment, that's up in the air. But you can only sort of go on the findings that we haven't, and ultimately it's his fighter that's done this, and his promotions to sort of put the wrongs right. And unfortunately, he's let a lot of boxing people down, I feel.
So, good evening, Boxing Lounge, who's just joined us. Welcome.
Evening, fellas.
So it's only right that I bring you in next. So, obviously, it's a day of debacle, but what are your thoughts on the Ben Eubank situation?
Right. My understanding is that the fight's been postponed. It hasn't been cancelled.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Is it going to happen this calendar year?
No, they're talking about February next year provisionally.
Okay, because the reason why I ask is if it did happen this year, I think that there would be more of an advantage for Ben, because Eubank's already dropped the weight. I mean, it's a couple of days before the fight. He must be around 160, if not lower than that, before the fight was actually officially off, because he would have been cutting weight.
And he looked very dry, didn't he, in that little walk?
Yeah.
Workout.
So effectively, he's been temporarily weakened. I mean, if I was a shrewd businessman, I'd push. If I was in Ben's corner, I'd want the fight to happen this year, because he's already had his body weakened slightly. So to do it twice would be more an advantage for Ben. But as that's not the case, we know the fight's not happening this year.
I think Ben's going to have to go and clear his name, isn't it?
I can imagine that Sauerlands and Wasserman Boxing will get Eubank a fight sharpish, because he's made weight. He's spent money on the camp. Why not go and get him a fight, whoever it's against?
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of Channel 5 shows coming up. They could throw him on, couldn't they? Headline. You know, he's not going to be a mega opponent to headline a Channel 5 show, with all due respect. So that's one option, isn't it?
Was it Channel 5 where they had that pay-per-view for the IBO belt? Oh no, was that YouTube? I can't remember. There was Chris has done a pay-per-view, but it was
for who? Sorry, for Eubank.
Yeah, Eubank. Did he?
Wasn't
He's
that
done
on Sky?
No. I swear.
No, ITV, wasn't it? Against that.
Was it ITV, not Channel 5?
ITV
Okay.
box office.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah. So
how much were both guys scheduled to make though, before it was cancelled?
7 million each is what's rumored.
There is money.
Damn, it's like 7 times what their pops made in the first fight.
Yeah, and you, I mean, you think about how many people were watching that first fight. It was something like 18 million.
16, or I think 16.5 or 17. Wiki it says something like that.
Crazy viewings.
I mean,
but that's when it was free, though. To be fair.
Yeah.
Just talking about the British Boxing Board of Control for 1 minute. Obviously, this really does back them into a corner from my perspective, because obviously VADA's not recognised by the BBOC. So, you know, they based the decision on VADA ruling. Personally, I think it should have been called off for the integrity of boxing. Mm-hmm. However, from a legal standpoint, I think they're going to get sued.
Who, the BBOC?
Yeah, I think they'll get sued because obviously, if a lawyer said to BBOC, why is it you taking the judgment of VADA when you don't recognise them? Uh-huh. And obviously, the test from UCAD came back negative. I think that I'm no legal expert, but from the outside looking in, it looks like a very precarious position the British Boxing Board of Control are in, and it will go to court.
Mm-hmm.
Carl,
do you guys? Sorry.
No, go on, mate. You carry on.
Okay. Do you guys remember the whole debacle with David Hay and Derek Chisora, and the way that David Hay couldn't get a boxing license?
He went to
and he
Luxembourg.
went to that's right, Luxembourg. But the fight still happened. It was still in London,
Still in the
wasn't it?
UK. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was at West Ham, I think, from memory.
Yeah.
Eddie Hearn come out earlier on today, and said he wasn't prepared to go with another organisation from elsewhere. He had to be the British Boxing Board of Control.
And that's
so
when
he was looking at options, though.
Well, by all accounts, they had 3 or 4 foreign boxing control boards lined up. So why wouldn't there, with the money that's on the table?
That would have been. I mean, the problem is, Cole, they've dug themselves a big enough hole. If they'd have done that and gone behind the Boxing Board of Control and gone to, say, Luxembourg, that would have created even more of a stink.
Yeah. But
it would have left British Boxing Board of Control's credibility in tatters, wouldn't it?
Well, no, not.
What about the B sample, though?
Here's the thing, mate. By all accounts, I've watched an interview with Eddie Hearn. I think it was filmed last night. Might have been filmed this morning. And he's basically said that the B sample might not even be available for another 2 weeks.
Well, if the fight had gone ahead, that would have been a bit too convenient, wouldn't it?
Well, it's convenient, isn't it, that the A sample results somehow have found their way out a couple of days before the fight, when there's no way the B sample results could have been brought out. So,
and I'm just going to pick these few comments up in the side from Joe. So he starts off by saying, shocking from Hearn, trying to sweep another failed test under the carpet. When will fans wake up to how Hearn really operates behind the scenes? He goes on to say, let's be honest, Ben's popped dirty, and if he was innocent, he would have got the B sample tested when they found out over 2 weeks ago. Strong views from Joe.
I hear you, Joe, and you might be right, but I'm not prepared to throw Ben under the bus just yet. Because of the fact that it is a trace sample, it is possible that it's contaminated. It is. The problem that they've got is that even if it is contaminated, the likelihood is the B sample is going to be the exact same result because it comes from the same urine test. So basically, a boxer goes and pees in a cup, and then that one sample they then split into 2. They call it an A sample and a B sample. So this B sample is going to come back and it's going to have the same trace that the A sample had, unless somebody tampers with it.
You're assuming that the A sample didn't get contaminated, or the apparatus?
No, I'm thinking the A sample. My personal opinion is I don't think Ben is a drugs cheat. I just don't think he's that sort of character. I really, really don't. I don't know the guy, but that's my personal opinion. I think that somehow that sample's got contaminated. Whether that be that, and this might sound far-fetched, whether that be that somebody making his meals, somebody making his drinks, somebody in his camp somewhere has got this sample somehow on him. Because it is so minute. Like I say, might sound a bit far-fetched. I don't think.
So why not test the B sample now then, or test it 2 weeks ago? What do you reckon happened there?
Because to be honest with you, mate, like I've just said, the B sample is going to be the exact same result as the A sample because it's come from the same pee, from the same urine.
Did we ever see Dylan White's B sample?
No, we didn't, mate.
No.
It went missing.
Okay.
Exactly.
Convenient.
Exactly. That's my point. And it wouldn't surprise me if this B sample goes missing.
Oh, well, if it goes missing, then Matchroom's reputation is going to be in the dirt.
Well, it wasn't in the dirt with White, was it? He's carried on since then. He's grown as a businessman.
But the thing is, White's separate to the promotional company. Do you know what I mean?
At the time, he was under Matchroom.
This has got a lot more attention than the Dillian White Oscar Rivas fight, Andy, hasn't it? There's a lot more eyes on this.
It has, but the point I'm making is he's got previous. Just like Joe says, he's got previous.
But what I'm saying is, I think this could be damaging for Ben if he doesn't clear his name.
Ben's got previous, did you say?
No.
Sorry, say that again, mate.
I think you meant Matchroom, didn't you, Andy?
Oh, yeah, sorry, my bad.
Sorry, Matchroom. The thing is, Carl, he can't clear his name because, as I've just said, that sample, the A sample and the B sample, are exactly the same. So when that B sample comes out and it sees that it shows the same trace, as that possibly can claim his name from that.
So Joe said, how would a woman's fertility drug that used as a masking agent for pets, it's no business being in a fartist system? That's a bit I am struggling with, Andy. I know you.
I hear you, Joe. I hear you, mate.
It's a tough question.
It's also used to boost testosterone, as well as some people using it as a masking agent. It's also used to boost testosterone. If you listen to Talk Sport today, I can't remember who it was that said it, but apparently it boosts testosterone by 600% if it's used systematically. But by all accounts, and I don't know whether this was Calla Sowland trying to keep the fight going, but he said Wednesday in the public workout that they've seen Ben's testosterone results levels from around that time, that this test was positive, and his testosterone levels are no different from normal. So if that's the case, then, and he has been doing it, then it's made no difference. I really do. I really want to believe, and maybe I'm being naive, but I really, really want to believe that Ben's not capable of this. And but the thing is, it's not just Ben you got to think about. It's his training team. And let's not forget, his training team are in Matchroom's gym. You know, this is all intertwined with Matchroom as a group, as a team. They've got massive names in that training
so
group.
What point are you making there regarding the Matchroom gym?
The point I'm making is that if Ben's done for drugs, and like I say, I don't want to believe that's the case. If it comes out that he has been doing it, he won't be the only one doing it, because he's not doing that by himself, is it?
Yeah.
Other people in that camp have got to know that he's doing that.
So it's literally happening under Matchroom's roof. Is that what you're saying?
Basically, is what I'm saying, mate.
Allegedly. Let's throw that word in quickly.
It's my opinion,
as we understand,
It's my opinion, mate. No, it's my opinion.
Giving me palpitations here.
It's my opinion. But what I'm saying to you is, I don't think that my personal opinion is I don't think that Ben's capable of that. I think he's more of a genuine fighter than that. I don't think he needs it.
Well, let me just ask, how much time between the fight being announced and the actual fight date, what was that duration? Was it about 9 months, 6 months? But the reason why I'm asking is, how much time did he have to put on 10 pounds?
Plenty, mate. Yeah, plenty.
Yeah, but you got to look at it from the point of view that if you do a lot of cardio, putting on muscle is difficult. Yeah, as opposed to just doing weight training, you'll put on the muscle a lot faster.
Yeah, so he's
boxers don't have that luxury.
He's obviously doing more weights, isn't he?
Yeah, it's obvious.
He's obviously doing more weights, and he wouldn't have had to cut the way he would normally cut. So the cardio part of it, even though he's a very, very fit guy anyway, he doesn't walk around at welterweight. He walks around at maybe super middleweight. So having to cut to make that weight hasn't been the case this time. So he's had a bit of play there and a bit of luxury there. I don't know.
I feel really let down by. I'm stating the obvious, but I feel really let down by Conor Benn and his team.
See again, Carl. That's your opinion, and you're entitled to it.
Yeah, I think the buck stops with the fighter. Ultimately, I think he's responsible for what goes into his body. Ultimately,
yeah. But the problem is, mate. In this day and age, they have nutritionists, they have chefs. Basically, the nutritionist will go to the chef and say, "Right, I want you to cook in this, this, and this, and I want this amount."
Yeah, you don't need to explain to me how a camp works. But right. What I'm saying is...
So the point I'm making is you can't just lay the book at Ben, because there's other people around him that are doing all that for him.
He's the boss, right?
Yeah, but exactly. And he's paying somebody to be his nutritionist and his chef, for example, as well as his trainer.
So it's his responsibility to make sure they get it right.
Yeah, but he's not going to... He's
Yeah, but the point is that it's delegated. Do you know what I mean?
exactly.
But
That's my
ultimately,
point.
what I'm saying is the responsibility still falls with Ben.
But Ben's not going to second guess what they're.
This is where you have to put your trust in a system or a person.
But something's gone wrong somewhere, hasn't it? It's clearly. So
It's either done intentionally or it's sabotage. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think for 1 second Ben's took it intentionally. That's my point. The fact of the matter is, it's in his system, and at the end of the day, he's the one that will get banned if it's found on this second B sample. The question's going to be for me is, and the big one for me is, apparently this VADA test was at the start of August, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How long has it been since that VADA test to when the UCAD test was taken?
Well, apparently UCAD didn't pick anything up.
Exactly. That's my point. So if that UCAD test was done a week after the VADA test and they didn't pick it up, why did they not pick it up? But if it was only done, say, I don't know, last week at camp, nearly a month later, then it's potential that if it was only trace, it's no longer in his system. And that's why...
Let me just put these comments up in the side. So Joe said it's a complicated system. You take the peds, then cycle off with the stuff Ben's taken to kickstart the testosterone level. He then says, Andy, you can't put that amount of muscle mass on in that short of time. It's impossible. It really is. And Joe, he goes on to say,
what period of time are we talking about, though? That's the thing. 6 months, 9 months,
10 weeks.
About 10 weeks, I'd say.
Oh, that you putting on a pound a week with doing cardio? Yeah, I'd say you pretty much need tests to do that, even at your peak testosterone levels, because the amount of cardio you'd have to do while he's training.
Yeah, and he finished
pound
off
of muscle
by
a week
saying
is
a lot.
Sorry.
What? No, so Joe finished off by saying, "What's it doing in the gym then?" Now, to be fair to Conor Benn and give it a bit of balance, there's nothing to say it was taken in the gym. So it could have been anywhere, couldn't it?
That's if he's even taken it, allegedly again.
Well, the thing is, but the fertility drug that he's alleged to have taken, I heard that could be used to bring down too high testosterone levels. Because if you're too high, you're going to pop on the test because your range is way above normal. But again, I don't know, because this is just second and third hand conversations I've heard, so I don't know what's actually true and what's not.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because
there's a lot of facets. There's a lot of facets to this story, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, you got the British Boxing Board of Control angle. You've got what happens next. You got Ben, who's clearly going to clear his name if he can. Then you've got all the legal action that's no doubt going to take place. So I'd like to see Robert Smith come out and give a statement and explain why they came to the rationale that they did. I know the statement's already been released, but we've moved on since then, haven't we?
Do you know why I think, Cole? I think that the British Boxing Board of Control listened to public outcry.
Yeah, we don't agree on that point because I think they should be looking at their rules and coming to decisions by the rules, not by what the public is saying. Because that, in my eyes, that makes them a weak organisation because you can't always be popular with public opinion.
You should. You're right. You're right. They should just go by the rules. And if they went by their own rules, because they don't recognise VADA, then Ben would be still fighting Saturday night.
Yeah, I think they was in a difficult position. I don't think it was so much the public outcry or whatever you want to call it. I think it was more for boxing as a sport and the credibility of them as an organisation. Because if the fight would have gone ahead, it was setting a blueprint, wasn't there, for everybody?
Yeah.
You know, don't worry about UCAD. Don't worry about obviously the British Boxing Board of Control. If you fail the test, you can just jump on another organisation. So I think they're looking after their own reputation as well. I
hear you, mate. But then you go straight back to the White Rivas fight and go, well, why didn't you stand by that then?
Yeah, I'm not part of the control, so I can't answer that. But that's why I think they come to the decision they have. Obviously, they've set precedent now in a way, and that's what no doubt a sports lawyer will be asking them. Why did the White Rivas fight go ahead, but this one hasn't? And I'm not sure how they answer that.
I mean, what Conor Benn?
why I have a bit less sympathy, I think, was because Eddie Hearn constantly brought it back to the Billy Joe Saunders situation in Canada. But with Billy Joe Saunders, as I understand it, he got an over-the-counter sort of drug for a cold. There, I sort of have a bit.
Oh no, that's just a cover story. To be fair, guys, that's just. I don't believe that BS.
Maybe not.
I think that's just a cover story.
Yeah. But I think with that though, you can have some sort of more sort of sympathy, because I suppose that could happen. Say you take a Lemsip and there's something in that, and then all of a sudden, sort of you get a drug ban. But Conor Benn's allegedly taken, I where he can sort of not know that he's taken it, because I was on a Twitter space this morning with some others and people that are in the know a bit more than me, and they were sort of saying this can either get it injected or a pill. So unless someone sort of give it to him as a mistake, which again is unlikely, it's hard to see how he didn't.
So, Sean, how do you administer it? Injection or what was that second one?
Pills.
Yeah.
Right.
So you can't get it from kissing your wife.
No.
So Joe in Sidebar says the news on White Rivas only came out after the fight. Too late then, the court injunctions had already been served.
You sure, Joe?
So,
look at it from another angle then. So not long ago,
it's giving me a headache. I've been thinking about it all day, to be honest.
Not long ago, Buatsi was supposed to be fighting John Pascal. Pascal fails a VADA test. What does Eddie Hearn do? Pulls Buatsi out the fight and says that he's not putting his fighter in with somebody that fails a VADA test.
So Eddie's flip-flopping then?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, exactly that, mate. Unfortunately,
that wasn't on UK soil, though, was it?
No, but that shouldn't matter.
So is ethics only matter at home then?
But exactly, it shouldn't matter.
I'm just saying that the British Boxing Board of Control won't use that as an example, will they?
I'm using it as an example of how promoters will change their views on things to suit them.
No, really.
But this is we're not just talking any old fight here. We're talking a fight worth near on 20 million.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest. That's why it's getting the exposure that it is.
The
other fight didn't get nowhere near the exposure that this decision has. Let's have it right.
The point I'm kind of making, though, Carl, is, and actually, I'll quote a tweet that I've just seen from Stanley Stannard. Anyone that don't know Stanley Stannard, he fights at the Carl Greaves gym in small old shows currently. He's an 8-0 pro fighter. So has to sell his own tickets at shows to make money. He put a tweet out earlier on saying, if he'd have failed the same drug test, the likelihood is he'd never be able to box again. That's the difference in levels. That's the difference in the fact that the biggest promoter potentially on the planet is trying to keep a fight going, even though one of his fighters has got a positive test. If someone on this undercard from the weekend had tested positive, that person would have been pulled from the card. They wouldn't have been fighting. They would have been pulled from the card and someone else would have been put in. You can't have it both ways.
And if it was Eubank Jr., if we reverse these roles, how quickly would Eddie Hearn cancel this bout?
He'd have jumped all over it, mate. He wouldn't have been as respectful as Cal has been. That's for certain.
Did you guys see the satire video that they made today about it?
No.
Right, basically, Eubank and Benn are having a head-to-head, and Eubank says to Benn, "Yeah, I heard you failed a drug test," and they go back and forth, and then Ben's got a squeaky voice. Oh, it's quite funny, and then Eubank says, "Yeah, 60%," and then Ben goes, "Yeah, 160%, baby."
What would you do with Eubank next then, Boxing Lounge? What would you do with Eubank? Because obviously it's ready to go.
What do you mean in terms of?
When would you
Well,
have
it's only 3.
would you wait?
Would I wait? Well, if he doesn't fight now, it's February, did you say?
That's what early indication is, yeah.
And when was the last time?
I'd get him a
He
fight.
can't hang around it that way
Stay
until
busy
February, can he?
Yeah, you need to keep your reflexes sharp. You need to be tested. You know, being out of the ring for more than 6 or 9 months for a fighter, especially in your 30s, if you don't need a rest, no, I don't think that's a good idea.
I hear Zach Parker's looking for an opponent at super middleweight.
Well, I've heard that the John Ryder fight's about done and dusted.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys can call me Tommy, by the way.
Okay, Tommy. I quite like Boxing Lounge. Got to keep it as that.
No, you can call me BL if you want.
So, obviously, Andy, would you have Eubank Jr. out at middleweight or light or super middle?
Yeah, I would. Yeah. Thing is, he's done the camp, mate. He's never going to get the money back that he's put in the camp. He's not going to get anywhere near the purse he was going to get for this, but he's ready. So why not get him out on the next available show? I know it's very late in the day, and he's not going to get an opponent, but he could have been on next week's show. I know it's an all-women's show, but or there's also other shows coming up, you know, very soon. Just get him out. Get him out anywhere. He's ready, so why waste it? He's put the money into camp. You might as well get him a fight soon and get him out. It's got to be so frustrating for him, and maybe he'd find it difficult getting up for another opponent that's not at this level of fight. I don't know.
How many fights has Eubank had at 168? Was it more than one?
168. He's fought.
Yeah. Quite
a few. Most of his recent fights have been 168.
Oh my gosh!
It's in the tournament. Is it with WBSS as well? Once he had a few against Yildirim and people like that, so quite a few.
And the Groves fight, that was at 168, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was the only one. Oh, I'm mistaken.
Yeah. Sean, what would you do with Eubank Jr. next?
Yeah, I agree. I think they've got to keep him sharp. I mean, with Harlem as well on the undercard, his cousin, I don't see, if it's going to be on the Channel 5 show that's not announced yet, I don't just see Brighton not his fault here.
Here we go. Brighton Tourist Information Board again, look.
Yeah.
Go on, carry on.
Harlem's in with all the footballers because I know a couple of them was at the open workout yesterday. I don't see why they do that. I mean, he's never been so popular. They don't even follow boxing. I mean, today I've been in messages and things. So if that's what they want to go down that, I don't see why not. I mean, him until 8 months' time or whatever it is, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got his sponsorship with KFC to fall back on now, hasn't he? So in the sidebar, Joe says, what I don't know is what happens if Ben doesn't ask for the B sample to be tested. I think Ben's going to do all he can to clear his name, to be honest. And that may not include getting that B sample tested, to be honest. I think he'll get to the bottom of why it's appeared.
Problem is though, Cole, back going all the way back to August, how do you possibly clear your name? If that B sample is the same urine sample as the A sample, which is what I'm led to believe is always the case, and it's going to be the same result, there's kind of no real benefit to Ben for pushing for the B sample. And that's probably why he earns pushing it back and not really wanting to talk about it.
Go on, Tommy.
All right. The way I see it, as I said before, there's either two scenarios. Either he's in on it or he was duped, or as in there's foul play. Now, if there isn't foul play, in his mind, he's innocent.
Yeah.
So he should be pushing for the B sample. Do you know what I mean?
The B sample is going to be the same result as the A sample.
Right. I'm going to challenge you on that because the testing is not done at the same time, and it's not done by the. It's done
not
on a
necessarily
different.
done by the same person. You're right.
Yeah, but it's not done on the same day. It's not done at the same time. And there could be procedural errors between the first test and the second test. And by that, I mean contamination. So it's not exactly like for like. It should be, but it's,
I mean, I'm not.
It's similar, but it's not.
I hear what you're saying.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any stretch, but if that sample was taken when we're saying early August,
that's what I'm led to believe, mate. Yeah,
it's been sat somewhere for a long, long time. So if it is foul play, someone could have access to that, couldn't they?
Early August. That's got to be 2 months.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but with the B-side, did they do this with that as well? Because maybe, I mean, that could be another way where they could determine
what. I think so, mate.
I think it's blood and urine, isn't it? No?
It's just urine, isn't it?
Is it just urine? Okay.
I'm sure it is.
I don't know.
I'm sure it is. The thing is that's the way it works is they'll test the A sample, they'll release the results of the A sample, and it's not until that A sample has been released that they then, if that A sample is positive, that's the only time they test the B sample, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
They don't just test the B
sample. There's no reason to test both samples unless there's an adverse finding.
Goes in the sidebar. Both samples are taken and sealed in front of the fight, so they put the B sample into cold storage and test the A sample. So,
so, but I don't. I mean, to answer the question,
Ben clears his name then.
I mean, to answer the question about the B sample, a couple of boxers have come out and said that it takes at least 72 hours minimum to get a B sample back after an A sample. So if you really push for it, you get it back in 72 hours, which wouldn't have been enough time. The fight would have been done, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be after the fact. Yeah.
I mean, a friend of the show, Adam Booth, he put a tweet out earlier on stating something very similar. He thinks it's a bit suspicious that the news got released on the Wednesday, knowing that there's no way the B sample could have got tested in time before the fight. Mm-hmm. He thinks that they maybe knew about the A sample result a while back, kept it to themselves, and then released it, knowing that if public outcry cried for the B sample, it couldn't have got done before the fight, and maybe they were just trying the luck to see whether they could still get the fight on.
So, just one Benny Boxing inside. Good evening, Benny. No, good evening, Benny Boxing. I feel Ben, like Dillian White, will be found to be innocent. Well, I'm hoping. I just can't see him jeopardising this big chance.
I'm with you, Benny, on that.
Benny also says he has got to ask for the B sample to be tested. I still don't understand why this was not picked up 2 weeks ago when they found out.
But the whole timing of the British boxing testing is perverse. You look at did Fury pop before the Vlad fight, or was it the fight before the Vlad fight that he popped?
Don't know.
I don't know. Too.
Right. And my question is, right, let's assume it was he popped before the Vlad fight. It was one of the two he popped. I'm not sure which. But why wasn't he stripped? He was he was stripped. But what I'm saying is, was he stripped for the coke, or was he stripped for the PEDs?
Don't know.
So Joe said it was before the Vladimir fight. By the summer.
Okay. I think I'm making a bad point.
So there's so many avenues in there. There's so many.
There is. It's a mess.
Oh, I know. I was going to ask. Sorry. Very quickly. If they knew he popped dirty, why was he still allowed to fight Vlad? And I'll tell you why. It's because they thought that he had a good chance of beating him and get rid of the old king. That's what I think.
Oof. That's a statement and a half, isn't it, Tom? I think we use the word. I think we'll use the word.
Well, I said I think. So it's an opinion-based statement.
Yeah, you allowed your opinion, fella.
I can't. You
Joe
know
said
what?
in
It's
the
that long ago now. I can't even remember the circumstances around Fury.
Oh, Wild Boar and all that BS story. Do you remember that?
I don't remember any of it, mate. I'll be honest. I don't. Yeah.
Nandrolone, I think it was.
Right.
So Joe says Fury wasn't a champion, he was a challenger. I'm assuming that's what he means. Why did he get to go ahead with the fight? And he also says UCAD cleared Fury to fight.
Yeah, they did, but he still. The problem is that UCAD dropped the ball on that, and because they dropped the ball, there was kind of liability on both sides. So that's why they both issued a joint statement at the same time, i.e., the Fury camp and UCAD.
I'll be honest
So
with
why
you, a
would
bit like Andy, I don't really recall it, if I'm honest, Tommy. I don't, maybe I got a bit enthralled in the way Fury won that fight against Klitschko, so my memory evades me.
Mm-hmm.
So, Benny Boxing Inside says, I did say on Twitter that I don't understand why the British Boxing Board of Control made this statement now. Why not 2 weeks back?
Did they know about it 2 weeks back? The British Boxing Board.
Well, I know the promoters did because Ern said he knew about it. This wasn't new news. I think he allegedly said.
Yeah, but if someone fails the drug test, how does the how does the alphabets find out about it? And whose duty is it to tell them?
Mm.
Is it the promotion companies, or is it some other mechanism?
I think it's a very good.
It wouldn't have helped that VADA are not recognised by the British Boxing Board of Control, would it? That wouldn't have helped.
I think it's a very good chance that the board didn't find out about it until it was publicly released. Don't forget,
officially, but they would have heard something behind the scenes. I know it wouldn't have been official, but you hear rumblings.
Are you suggesting there might have been a nudge, wink, wink, Tommy? Surely not.
I think that may have been the case, but obviously I wasn't a fly on the wall, so I don't
Allegedly,
know for sure.
obviously.
Yeah. Well, I said I think.
So,
yeah.
Benny Boxing says, agreed, Joe, but if the British Boxing Board of Control don't accept VADA testing, so why have they this time? I think the British Boxing Board of Control need to clarify their position, and I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to.
But why do they not recognise it?
I mean, it's
why don't they recognise that body?
Yeah,
that's a good question.
It certainly won't be sorted.
The funny thing is, Adam Cattrall came out with this on TalkSport, and he makes a really good point. VADA is a boxing only testing process. UCAD is a complete sports based. So for UCAD, a table tennis player gets the same testing that a boxer does. How's that right?
No, it's not, because you might take different supplements depending on what part of you might be one for reflexes, one for strength, one for speed.
Exactly. I'm using table tennis as an example, but it's basically all sports UCAD.
So it's a broad approach rather than specific.
Yeah, and VADA is boxing based, so they will pinpoint specific drugs that boxers are like
anabolics things and diuretics and stuff like that. Yeah.
Whereas UCAD may not. I wonder whether I mean, I don't know this, and I don't know if it's come out. Maybe somebody can answer it. I wonder whether this particular thing that is popped on. I wonder whether that's even in UCAD's testing system.
You mean, is it on their banned list?
Yeah. It is.
Or is it even tested for, to be specific? Yeah.
I think I saw it.
I'll just put his comment up in the side, guys. So, Joe said in the sidebar, VADA lets all parties know, both teams, the board and UCAD, because Ben's UCAD test was negative, they couldn't act, as in the board. Shambles of a system.
It is a shambles of a system, Joe. That's why we're talking about it the way we are, because it's not clear. That's why it's taken the whole of yesterday and the whole of today for a decision to be made. It's a
One
farce.
decision
It
that
really
will
is.
one decision that will be made in the next couple of days, I would guess, is that the British Boxing Board of Control will start to acknowledge VADA. I would suggest moving forward.
Well, they've made a precedent here, Cole, because they already have acknowledged them. By
I mean, officially,
You
though,
recognise,
in their guidelines to allow them to
recognise,
make decisions moving forward on the basis of their rules and regs, rather than, on what I think this is a very fragile decision they've made legally.
the likelihood is they're going to get sued. The likelihood is they're going to get sued because under their own rules and regulations, they shouldn't have stopped the fight. Under their own rules and regulations, because he didn't fail a UCAD test. So because of that, they couldn't ban him, and they haven't banned him. He's still not banned. He's still free to fight.
No.
They just won't sanction it because of what you said earlier on, Carl, for the goodness of boxing. I mean, but that in reality, that's not reason, is it? That's not reason to have a fight stopped.
Not from a legal standpoint. No,
from a legal standpoint. Everybody, I think every man and his dog agrees that it's the right decision.
They may as well put out a statement saying it's for the greater good.
Yeah.
How does that stand up in the court of law, though, Tommy?
Yeah, but saying it's for the better. What was the statement? It's good. It's better for the sport this way, or something like this.
Something like that. Said?
Yeah. So that's just as woolly as saying, "Oh, it's the greater good."
I mean, the thing is, it's okay. The British board taking a stance on this one particular fight, it will mean absolutely nothing to world boxing if the other organisations and other boards of control don't take the same stance.
Well, it's quite interesting. I don't know whether they've put this out as a bit of a smokescreen to bring us away from Benn and Eubank, but did you see that they've refused to sanction the Daniel Jabbar versus Lucas Brown fight?
For what reason?
So they've said that I've only seen Lucas Brown's clip on Twitter, but because Lucas Brown is too old at 43.
I thought he was older than that.
Well, he said 43 in his video, and he's only lost 3 times in his entire career. I know he's had a couple of bad ones, but yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, Cole. Cole, don't get me wrong. That's an absolute joke of a fight. It's an absolute joke of a fight.
But it's sanctionable, isn't it?
Of course it is. Of course it is. I mean, he wasn't that long ago. When did he fight out in Australia? Was it 4-6 months ago, something like that?
Yeah, he beat that Ford, didn't he? Knocked him out in the first round.
Yeah. So quite clearly, he's still got his boxing ability about him. But it is a joke of a fight. But you're right. I mean, you're telling me that the British Board of Control's not sanctioned a fight for anyone over that age before?
So, no. They must have, because when Frank Bruno fought, oh God, I can't even remember his name. An old white guy that Ali fought.
But that doesn't really.
It was actually, yeah. But I can't remember how old Bugner was, but he looked old.
Older than 43, I would suggest.
Yeah, I would as well. Yeah, and there'll be hundreds of occasions. And
what about the George Foremans of this world who went on to win a world title? I know it's not obviously British Boxing Board of Control remit, but it's another example, isn't it, of an heavyweight boxer performing. So,
if we want to really do this, all we have to say is Bernard Hopkins.
Yeah.
The
board are not shedding themselves in very good light at the minute, are they? Let's put it like that.
I'd like to be a fly on the wall in Robert's house tonight.
I will say though, Carl, how they've gone about it might be wrong, but the decision they've made for this Benn Eubank fight, the decision they've made is correct.
Yeah, the wording they're using is for the integrity of boxing, isn't it? That's the word they're using.
It's the right decision because of the circumstances.
Yeah.
The fact that Eddie Hearn can't see that's the disturbing thing for me. Do you want to pick that comment up from Benny Boxing, and that kind of says what I'm saying, really?
So Benny Boxing says, I've watched a lot of interviews with pro boxers today and agree with them all. They have all said that the British Boxing Board of Control needs to be clear on their rules and regulations and stick with it. This is a boxing problem only. And then he goes on to say this is a massive mismatch. But regarding the rules and regulations, I fully agree. You know, and like
Who
I say,
did you
we're
guys
interested to see how
actually?
this stands up.
Who did you guys actually
Go on,
pick
Tom.
before the fight was postponed?
I had Eubank Jr.
Yeah, same.
I
Yeah.
changed my mind. Go on, Sean.
I had Eubank Jr. as well.
I changed my mind about 50 times. I've got to be honest. I think it's a lot closer than people are giving it credit for being. To be honest with you, I jumped up and down on this show on numerous occasions saying this fight shouldn't be happening because I don't think it benefited either fighter's career. Might have benefited the bank balance, but it didn't benefit the careers. And I was worried for Ben going back down to welterweight after putting the muscle on. And how he would do that and whether he'd still stay strong. I was more concerned about that than the result of the fight, if I'm being completely honest. I think
Ben hasn't got a strap at 147 yet, has he?
No, he hasn't, and
No.
that's the point. That's
He
the
never
point.
will have.
Why pick this fight when there's fights he could have had, he could have made, not for titles because he's not ready for that, but certainly world level fighters. You know,
It's sort of heritage bragging rights, isn't it?
but come on. That's a smokescreen. That's absolute bollocks.
No,
That's
it's
absolute
not.
bollocks. It's
Look at
all
the
about
legacy
money,
that their parents had, and I know they're going to make a ton of money
Tommy,
each.
I
But
thought the timing was off. I think Conor Benn's got a lot to do in his weight division.
Yeah.
Why he's not fighting people like Keith Thurman and raising his credibility in that weight division baffles me. And the same for Eubank Jr. Really, he keeps talking about Triple G and other fighters. You know, I think they should have done a lot more in each of their weight divisions before jumping into this fight. Is my honest opinion.
Tommy, don't get me wrong, mate. I'm the biggest fan of Nigel Benn. He's my favourite UK boxer ever. And the rivalry that he had with Eubank, I don't think there's been a better rivalry ever.
No,
between two British fighters. I really don't. I was disappointed that there was never a third fight. I actually thought Ben won that second one. I don't think it was a draw. The first fight was absolutely outstanding. I watched it back on DAZN a few days back just to get a bit of a flavour. It's absolutely outstanding, that first fight. How both of them were able to trade like they did for 9 rounds, it just baffles me.
It was brutal,
it was absolutely outstanding. And obviously all the gimmicks and all the banter and everything that went on beforehand and afterwards, between the two fights. I mean, there was 3 years between the two fights, I think. First one 1990, second one 93. So that rivalry, and it still continues today, really. But to use that to push this fight, I think it's ridiculous.
Okay, but let me just remind you of something else. Do you remember after the second fight, they didn't have the rubber match, but on ITV they did that gladiator series with the two of them, Ben and Eubank.
Oh no, I didn't.
But check it out on YouTube. It was brilliant. It was really, really good because they had to fight each other with swords and armor at the end of it.
Yeah, low budget production though, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was brilliant. It was brilliant. And Ben got his revenge on Eubank by doing spinning things with his sword. And it was quite dangerous at some points. I mean, they're both wearing full armor, full helmet, and all that stuff. But you're still swinging a big off sword at someone.
So in the sidebar, Joe's not a Ben fan. So Joe said Ben was a wrong un like his son. Before you jump in there, Andy, let me finish off. Benny Boxing said, I disagree, Joe. I think Ben has so much anger and aggression towards Eubank and the family. Would help. Don't get that bit. I still think the Eubanks have really underachieved so far. No, Connor, he names me. So, Carl, they're buying time with this fight. The champs at welterweight are in their mid to late 30s. They're waiting for the champs to age. That's my opinion of the reasoning behind this fight.
Hold on a minute, Cole. I need to go back to that comment from Joe. Ben was a wrong un. Can you explain yourself? We're
Yeah,
talking
why?
about one of the best UK fighters ever. There's nothing that guy would not do in a ring. He got beat. Don't get me wrong, he got beat. He wasn't the most skillful fighter, but name me another fighter with the heart of Nigel Benn.
Joe, Andy only normally smiles this much when he's got wins, so I think you better put an answer in the comments.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think Nigel Benn reminded me of Hagler. Now, Nigel Benn didn't have Hagler's chin, but the heart, the ferocity was
Wow.
That's what I think.
Joe said, look into his history, proper wrong. And then
the guy fought in the army, didn't he?
Jack
That's
says
right.
Carl Froch, and is that who your favourite UK fighter is, Jack?
He's saying someone that's got the heart of. He might be answering my question about naming another fighter with the heart of Nigel Benn. Yeah,
I'll say Froch.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Benny Boxing said, I still think back to Groves versus Eubank and being Groves was never the best chance. He schooled Eubank.
Yeah, Eubank didn't know what to do with Groves.
He wasn't big enough.
Well, it's not that, Cole. It's not that.
It is.
It's the fact. No, it isn't. It's the fact that Eubank hasn't got a jab, or didn't have a jab. He's now got one since he's been trained by the master, but he didn't have a jab at the time, so he couldn't get into range. So every time he tried to get into range, he was leaning forward, throwing shots and off balance, and it was easy for Groves to stay out the way.
The truth is that Groves was the first fringe world level fighter that he's fought at super middle, and he struggled with him because he's not big enough and he isn't a good enough boxer to hang with them at super middleweight.
Not powerful.
Well, that's why he moved down, isn't it?
Correct.
But the thing is,
Eubank,
Sorry?
Was he training himself or was it Jones?
He's training himself, wasn't he, mate?
Yeah.
But the thing I want to say about that fight, I really enjoyed that fight. Even though that Eubank lost that fight, he got a lot of respect from me, from the heart.
He hasn't got enough.
The punishment that he took.
Tommy, he hasn't got enough pop at super middle, though, has he? The answer to that is no.
No, he doesn't. His pop isn't significant like it is at 160.
So Jack Gladman says, person with the art, love him or hate him, Froch had art, he did.
Yeah, he did. You're right.
Joe says, Rose had a fantastic jab, made Froch get a nose job. But how did that fight end though, Joe? I'll just leave that one with you to ponder.
Yeah, but see that first fight.
Don't go in there with Tommy, don't. I
want to say it. George Groves has grown on me since that fight, and I was actually rooting for Froch, even though my mate went to school with George Groves. But I didn't like the way that fight ended. No way. Referee put him in a headlock.
Yeah, but let's have it right, Tommy. My view is, and I'm as you can gather by my accent, I'm not far from Carl Froch in terms of where he's from. The referee did him a favour there because he would have finished George Groves' career that night.
That may be the case, but you know what? We'll never know. We'll never know.
But he would have. He would have finished his career. It was gone. He was gone. So don't let's hear this crap about it was ended too early. He was out on his feet.
I'm going to respectfully disagree.
Watch it back. Get the YouTube clip up tonight. Watch it back. The lights were on, but nobody was home. I'm telling you, Froch would have finished his career.
I will say this: that was the best performance of George Groves' career. He never fought the same again.
That first round, oh my God!
Well, you could say the first 6 or 7 rounds, mate.
No, but
he was landing.
Look! Do you remember the build-up to the fight?
Yeah.
Groves says, "I'm going to hit you with 2 straight hands in the first round. Just watch." Oh my God, that was classic. And then the second one, he put him down. I thought to myself,
you've got to give George Groves credit for the way the way he approached that first fight, because he'd not fought anywhere near that level before that fight.
Well, let's have it right. Carl Froch underestimated him in that first fight.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, yeah.
And the problem is that because of that, that knockdown, that would have knocked out 99% of other super
Agreed.
middleweights.
Agreed.
And it's only because
Just
of
let
how
me finish
Cole
comment.
Froch's. It's only
Just
because of
finish
how
comment.
Cole Froch's chin is that he
Yeah.
survived.
If you actually watch that knockdown, I think Carl's when he got hit with a punch, I don't think his feet were solid on the ground. So I think he was transitioning his weight.
He was square.
I think Howard Foster deserves an
That's
MBE
his
for services to protecting boxers on the back of that fight. And I'm just going to pick Benny's boxing comment up. I totally disagree. Carl, I was at the fight, so was I, and totally disagree. So I was at the fight as well, so I guess we're at a bit of a stalemate on that one. But watch it back on YouTube.
I will say,
And then come on next week and tell me that I was right, because
I will say, I'm a Froch fan, obviously. I'm from Nottingham, the same as Carl is. I will say this, that I don't think he was quite out on his feet in that round, Carl, but I do believe that Froch was getting stronger and stronger as the fight went on, and I do believe Carl Froch would have stopped him maybe the next round.
I'm a massive Groves
Good evening.
fan, and I think if Adam Booth was in his corner that night, I think George.
Oh my days.
That's the other element that we forgot. Yeah, I agree with that as well.
What time is it? Is it time to log off?
What happened
What's
with
that? Are
Graves?
you
Are we
looking
giving
on some-
But
Booth that
you
much
got to remember,
credit?
we're talking about a fantasy fight here that didn't happen. We're talking about a specific fight and a specific scenario, and
Sean,
that makes it a fantasy fight.
Yeah. Sean, have you ever wondered why Adam Booth didn't want to be in the corner of George Groves versus Carl Froch? I'll answer it for you, because there's no way of him winning that fight.
Well, lads, we're
it's
talking
because
about
I do
something
that
that don't really
before,
matter because
Meow.
lads, we're talking about something here that don't really matter because in the second fight, when Carl Froch actually took the fight seriously,
Good night, Vienna.
That was still one of the best shots I've ever seen live.
Good evening, Jack.
Yeah,
How are you?
yeah.
That was the first fight I ever went to live. That second fight, and it was probably one of the best shots I've ever seen. Still,
Is it?
outstanding.
There's
It was like a
doubt in that second fight.
Hollywood take on it, wasn't it?
Quite a way to end your career in front of 80,000 people.
We've
and
got a
then
lot of
and then
anti-
remind
we've
us
got a lot
about
of
it
anti-
every other week.
I didn't realise we had anti-Froch fans in the sidebar. So Joe says Groves had one bad round and Foster stopped it. Could he have gone on? Yes. Was it possible? Froch also yes, but we don't know. I do know. I'm telling you now. If the legend that is Howard Foster, the greatest referee ever to grace a UK ring, wouldn't have stepped in.
I've met Howard, mate.
That fight. Hold on, Jack. I've started, so I'll finish. If he wouldn't have stepped in, there wouldn't have been a fight two. And all you Groves fans should be thanking him because he would have never lifted a world title because it would have been done his career. Full stop.
Right, I've met
Oh,
Howard
God.
Foster. I'll let him know you're a fan of his work, shall I?
Please do.
Yes,
What I
I
would
had
say
Howard.
though, with Graves is that relationship. Yeah, with Paddy Fitzpatrick. I mean, do you guys remember?
Oh, yeah, that was some awkward
That was a
sort of.
weird relationship.
Yeah,
You
Not
know
that I
what?
particularly dislike Paddy
You're only
Fitzpatrick.
as
I
good
don't
as the
really know
tools
much
you got
about
to
him.
work with, though.
You know what, lads? Groves came into that fight having walked out of the booth camp, 3 months earlier, maybe?
I
2
think
months
it was
earlier?
shorter than that.
I
Was
don't know.
it?
You-
did we ever find out what the split was over?
Yeah, because Adam Booth told him he couldn't beat Carl Froch.
Is that actually
Yeah,
documented?
I genuinely think that was the
I think
reason.
so.
Okay, I thought it was over some petty stuff like
Well,
money or something like that.
Next time we're in the room with Adam Booth, Andy can ask him.
I don't think so.
I believe, from what I understand, that he basically told him to target someone else for a world title instead of the Froch rematch.
Andy, do you want to give the bit of context to what happened with Adam Booth, just so they all understand what I'm talking
yeah.
about? Do you
Not
want to
really.
elaborate?
Forgot
No,
this
let's
isn't
not.
public knowledge.
Okay, we'll save that for a Christmas special or something, Ander.
Yeah, let's do that.
That's quite funny having known the context because you two told me.
Yeah, so in the sidebar, Joe does make me laugh. You should let me know the lotto numbers for Saturday, Carl. Benny Boxing says that Foster is a terrible ref. And Joe said it was 4 weeks when Booth decided he wasn't going to train
So
Groves.
the point I was going to make was that Booth was doing great stuff with and he got him primed for a world title shot. So the fact that it was only 4 weeks before that fight tells me that he was ready. I don't think Paddy Fitzpatrick did anything with him in those 4 weeks other than take the pads. And he needed someone in his corner. So to be honest with you, George Groves in that frame of mind, I hated him at the time, to be honest with you, because I thought he was being disrespectful. I thought he was very disrespectful to Frodge's career.
Oh, he was. He was an arrogant prick to Frodge. You got bad breath and all that shit. I remember that.
He was obviously a very self-confident fella, because I think he would have walked into that fight on his own if he'd have had to.
No, he can't have been that self-confident, because if he was, he wouldn't have tried to get underneath Carl's skin.
Yeah, but everyone plays mind games.
Yeah, but to the extent that he did, he went full on. I'm just going to have to swear, he went full on asshole.
Yeah, but Canelo basically tried to get under Golovkin's skin in the build-up to the third fight, giving him this, that, and the other. And
yeah, but to be fair, they had history.
Yeah, so did Frodge and Groves for the second one.
The thing
yeah,
is,
the second one.
Yeah.
The
thing is, before that first fight, Groves did everything he could to get under Frodge's skin, and he might have done a little bit. But if that was the case, then you'd think Frodge would have trained better than he did. Now, Frodge was always the ultimate professional, but I really do believe I have a few stories that I don't know are absolutely certain, but they come from good authority.
Local sources.
Yeah, that he didn't train his hardest for that fight.
Well, he was doing a dance show.
It was an easy win.
Well, wasn't it? He was doing
Dancing with the Stars?
Dance show. Yeah.
Yeah, did he not do like Strictly or something right before?
No, Dancing with the Stars, was it?
Dancing with the Stars or something stupid like that.
He thought it was.
Yeah, but he put in a sports
on,
psychologist for the second fight, didn't he? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, that was I mean that people slagged that off, but that was just actually a bit ahead of its time because a lot of them do that now.
Yeah,
well,
so
if you look back, Steve Collins was brilliant at that. What he did to Eubank Senior.
Headphones on.
Mm-hmm. And then turned his head into the corner.
Yeah, so in the build-up, they'd been hypnotised, didn't they?
Yeah, that's it. Hypnotised. That wasn't even true. It wasn't even true.
Tommy, you know now you've brought that up. I'm interested to hear what you think on this. So Steve Collins beat Eubank and he beat Ben. Do you think he's a better fighter than them pair, or do you think he caught them at the right time?
I think he caught them at the right time.
Yeah.
Ben was finished.
I'm going to be really controversial. I think Michael Watson was the best of all of them.
Yeah. I've seen what Watson did to Eubank. He beat him the first time. He got robbed, and then just the second fight was basically Eubank's equivalent of Gerald McClellan kind of thing.
He stopped Nigel Benn as well. Don't forget.
Yeah, Nigel Benn. To be fair to Nigel Benn, they're both at 160, but Ben was exhausted, and that last right hand, Eubank had to push with his whole body, so it was kind of like a shunt rather than a punch. Watch it back from different angles. That last punch.
Yeah, it wasn't a real. It almost fell.
It was a push punch. Yeah, that's what I mean. A shunt.
I don't mean Eubank stopped Ben. I meant Watson stopped Ben.
Oh yeah. Oh, and he stopped him with a jab.
Well.
He stopped him with a jab.
He basically fought him to a standstill.
The last punch he hit him with was a power jab.
He took loads of Ben's arsenal on his gloves and his arms. wore Ben out, and then stopped him.
So
Brilliant
I'm
tactic.
just gonna bring Benny Boxing in. Good evening, Benny Boxing. Thank you for joining the show.
Benny.
So I'm assuming you got something to say, fella. That's why you joined the show. So I'll give you the floor. What we'd like to discuss.
Oh well, just put me on the spot. Yeah, I just thought I'd join in. I'll go on. I'll talk to you a lot.
We can talk about how great Howard Foster is if you like.
Oh dear. Yeah, no, Howard Foster. Oh my God, that's one referee. I see him in charge of a fight. I'll just worry what he's going to do next. What decision he's going to make.
So you've obviously the Groves and Frotch fight. The first one you thought it ended a bit quickly, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think he ended that a little bit premature. I mean, like watch it times. I watch a lot of most of the fights. I always watch back 2 or 3 times, and I still think last week Frotch would have gone on to win because I think, like you said, I mean to start with, he did him very lightly. I think he did definitely take Groves lightly, but I think as it went on, better and better. And I mean, look, he would have beat him in the end, but I'm glad he stopped it lightly because then we got the.
Yeah,
he's got my Wi-Fi.
I think he's dropped out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right, can you still hear me now?
Oh, can you? Yeah, we've got you back.
Yeah.
I think I'm glad in a way he stopped it early because obviously it went on to give us the Wembley fight, and that was fantastic.
Yeah, but they're all regretting that because it went on to give you me being involved in boxing. So that's probably a downside to it.
Yeah, but the best thing about that fight is that it basically opened the floodgates to stadium fights again.
Yeah, it reinvigorated stadium fights, which I can't believe I'm thanking Carl Frotch for fighting in front of 80,000 people and telling us about it every 2 weeks. But he did.
Well, he didn't fight by himself.
Start it.
But even thinking
really
back to
felt
that,
George
I mean, you look at the entrances.
George Groves can't fill a phone box, so I'd imagine 80% of the fight fans in Wembley was, I'd say, Frotch fans.
Yeah, I would agree. I'll still say George Groves.
No, because George Groves
on the entrance.
is from London. Yeah, you're
George Groves has that Chelsea connection, doesn't he? Because of the whole.
I'll have a day off, Jack. Me and Andrew at Bramall Lane. You can count on one hand how many Groves fans are in that stadium.
I mean,
wow.
fair.
I'd like to take that statement back from Cole. There was lots and lots of Chelsea fans in that stadium.
I think lots and lots might be a bit extreme.
No, there wasn't.
I know you like splinters sitting on the fence.
There was
probably
lots there. No, come on, Cole, come on. Be honest now. There was probably as many Chelsea fans in there as there was Sheffield United fans.
No,
there was.
Well, I thought Brooke had a decent fan base, and I'd imagine that he did all right in Sheffield United.
I don't know what Andy was thinking that night, but I want to find something now.
The other thing that the Frotch and Groves fight did give us was Eddie Hearn, really, and that sort of catapulted him to what he is now, didn't it, really? But before, you only have, Frotch, Darren Barker, and a few others, Kelbrook. But from that fight, that would give him the ego he's got now, I think, anyway.
He did a great job with Frotch promotion.
AJ was on the undercard of that. You know that, right?
Yeah.
What was that, Benny?
Yeah, he was on the undercard of that fight as well. That was when he was on that. I think that was about his 5th or 6th fight. I think
6-0, I believe.
Yeah, all joking aside, George Groves did have quite a big following, but it was a Chelsea lot who were there, so he did have connection with Chelsea. So it was probably 70.
He would probably sell better in London than anywhere else. Put it that way.
To be fair, that was Bramall Lane, though, Jack. Yeah. So they travelled up to Sheffield for that.
Did they travel? Fair play to him then.
Yeah, so he had a fair old following in the ground.
Okay, so they travel more to follow Groves than they do to follow football. That's interesting.
Wow.
Oh, here's a question. Do you guys think with the controversy of the Ben Eubank fight being postponed and being postponed to next year, do you think they could drum up enough drama about it to turn it in from an O2 fight to a stadium fight?
No, can I plead the Fifth Amendment so that I don't
be a possibility, Billy White?
I don't see why not. It'd have to be a stronger undercard, wouldn't it, for a stadium fight, obviously. but there'd be more money in the pot. You'd imagine with it being a stadium fight. So I can't. Time of year is not great, though, is it?
By all accounts, By all accounts, Cole, they had the eyes on
Cardiff,
on West Ham. No, West Ham.
West Ham.
Obviously, the Ben connection with West Ham.
Yeah, that would make sense.
They got the eyes on West Ham, and obviously in the football
I
season.
tell
That's
you
why
who
it
would
didn't
sell
happen.
really well around that area. Would be probably Johnny Fisher.
Yeah, of course.
Because I don't know if there's any connection there with West, but I just assume around that sort of area he would sell well. I mean, he sells well anyway, but that's not the point.
So Joey the sidebar says he thinks Ben's going to get a ban.
I don't think so, and this is why. Okay, I'm not. By the way, I'm not saying whether he should or he shouldn't. I'm sitting on the fence with that. I'm doing an Andy, but
easy.
But because it was a VADA test and not a UCAD one, and the British board don't recognise VADA as an actual testing agent. I think they're more suspending this because it's so much up in the air, and they want to do some analysis. By the way, I feel that's the right decision, but I don't know if he'll actually get a ban, because if you remember, Billy Joe Saunders failed a VADA test and didn't get a ban from the board because they don't recognise VADA.
But Jack, surely they've got to ban him on the back of the decision of postponing the fight.
But Billy Joe Saunders was technically out of season.
Yeah,
that don't make it right though, does it?
No, I'm not talking about ethics, but that's the loophole. That's why he got away with what he got away with.
When this goes down the legal route, Jack, that question's going to be asked, isn't it?
Yeah. And the side note with the Saunders one is what he took isn't banned by UCAD. It's only banned by VADA.
This is part of the problem.
Took is perfectly legal under UCAD.
Yeah, it is. You're right, Sean. It is.
And
sorry.
Until we have them both, until we have the British Boxing Board accepting VADA, we're just going to have this situation repeating itself, because it's not,
no one outside of America accepts.
It's just going to happen again.
Why?
Everyone else accepts
it. No, Mexico won't either. Theirs is they will accept WADA but not VADA. It's a loads of different countries have the same issues. I think it's more to do with the fact that VADA's voluntary is why they don't accept it. I don't 100% know that, and I'm just being very careful so I don't legally get anyone in any trouble here. But I think that's why.
Let's just keep using the word allegedly, Jack. Let's keep throwing that in there.
We'll keep throwing allegedly in so that I don't lose my license and you don't.
I don't have to start taking my blood pressure tablets.
Jack.
Yeah.
Don't both UCAD and VADA, don't they both recognise WADA?
Yes.
So am I right in thinking that WADA's the creme de la creme?
WADA is World Anti-Doping.
Yeah.
But the odds of getting WADA testing at a boxing event, you would probably need it to be undisputed. And even then, WADA probably costs £1 million to get them to actually.
Well, because they test for everything.
What?
Because they test for everything, or it's more extensive?
No, because WADA is World Anti-Doping, so they have like teams and teams of people. VADA is voluntary anti-doping, which is similar, and they use a lot of the same labs. But World Anti-Doping is just like a massive organisation.
Surely, Jack, if that's the case, and they're a massive organisation, and they've got all these people testing, why are they not the sole tester?
Because they test every sport in the world. So it doesn't matter if you're... so I was an athlete, so athletics would do WADA. We would only use WADA, actually, to be fair, and UCAD. But we'd use WADA and UCAD. But you had WADA will pretty much test every sport. So badminton, tennis, cricket, snooker, everything. Yeah. And they're doing that worldwide. They can't be at every single event. That would be impossible. Otherwise, they would need 1 million employees, and no company could work that much. They would have to be somebody told me the other day, they would have to be 5 times as many people employed by WADA as Disney World, as Disney, like every Disney company.
I get that, Jack. Jack, I get that.
Yeah.
But there needs to be change. It can't carry on the way it is.
We need one governing body to say, right, everyone use VADA, or everyone use WADA, or everyone use UCAD, like athletics has done with, right, everyone uses WADA. You can have UCAD as but if you get banned by one, you're just banned by all of them, because it's just getting...
Yeah, but Jack, are these governing bodies and state commissions really going to do that?
No. Well, all the governing bodies, apart from, I believe, the WBO, have clean boxing programs with VADA.
Yeah, but the problem is, Jack, VADA's voluntary, like you've just said.
Yeah.
Boxers don't have to sign up for it.
They do, to be ranked by those governing bodies. So, for example,
maybe I'm being a bit ignorant with this.
Ranked by the WBC, you have to be in the clean boxing program.
Go on, Sean.
I was just going to say, maybe it's a bit off, but the way I see it, especially with VADA, is say if Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. never bothered signing up for it, this will just be going off the UK testing. So why include it in the first place? I mean, surely, in my opinion, they've included it so they can pick up substances that aren't UCAD. So now one has been uncovered, but the British Boxing Board is saying, well, we don't recognise them. So to me, it just makes zero sense.
I do wonder, though, because some of the undercard, wasn't there a WBC title on one of the undercards, like one of these trinket belts? They would have had to be in VADA anyway. So I don't know if you have to have it for the whole card, if you've got it for
there
one
was a European title on the undercard.
I know there's a Was there a European? Who was
Eddie Scotney.
Eddie Scotney's Europe was for Europe.
I'm just going to put a comment up in the sidebar. So Nardo Connor says, and we've been over this ground, he has no reason to have this drug in his body. It's a female fertility drug.
I agree with you.
So we've had that point made a few times now, haven't we? So
the other thing, as I said, I was at his face this morning, and Adam Booth, and he was saying it's £25,000 each for a test. So that would be for each of them. VADA,
what's that for? VADA?
It isn't cheap. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
25. It is 25 grand.
The confusing thing there, then, Sean, is they've paid 25. Did you say 25,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, 25 grand.
25 grand to be in VADA testing, and then when VADA finds something, Eddie Hearn wants to pretend like it doesn't matter.
Do you know
to be fair, so do the Sauerlands and Wasserman boxing, because at the end of the day they found something and they still wanted the fight to go ahead. So what was the point in the pair of them paying 25 grand?
Yeah, I think that's exactly the point, and especially when the control don't even recognise the body, so it brings.
Do you know?
So Joe in the sidebar, sorry guys, says, have the board come out and actually say they don't recognise the VADA test Ben's popped for?
They did it. They did it after the Billy Joe fight one. They said they don't recognise.
Eddie Hearn's come out and said it on numerous.
That it wasn't a UCAD failure, so therefore they wouldn't be suspending him.
Eddie Hearn's come out and said on numerous interviews in the last couple of days that the British Boxing Board of Control do not recognise VADA.
Yeah, I mean, VADA did it in the immediate aftermath of the Saunders thing when people were calling for him to be banned in the UK. VADA, they actually came out and said, we do not recognise this testing body. X, and I believe that I vaguely remember that happening. And so
it's all frustrating for me because you've got a promoter there that in 1 month thinks that VADA, everybody should be signed up for VADA, and if you're not, then he don't want to put a fight on with any of his fighters. And then when VADA finds something, he don't want to know. It's frustrating.
What I want to know, and I believe this to be true, because I believe that it's public knowledge that he does. Anthony Joshua always pays for VADA for the whole of his cards, right? If I believe that's public knowledge. So
Right.
if he's paying for it, then why is he paying for it if the board really don't acknowledge it? Why does he pay for it on top of you?
Because Anthony Joshua's not fighting a British fighter very often. He's fighting fighters from
No, but
around
he pays
the world.
for all the undercard as well. So all the fighters on a Joshua card will have VADA. He's known to pay for it for a whole undercard because obviously he has his own managed fighters on the card. So he pays for them all to have it. I don't understand that. Like, no. By the way, I think that's a good thing. And I'm not having a dig at AJ for doing that because I actually think it's the right thing to do. But like, this whole situation just seems murky to me.
Well, let me ask you guys this, right? The guys who get on the undercard, well, they're kind of blessed because they're going to get, or they should get, some sort of bump in their pay. But even before you get to an undercard, you're going to be getting pittance for your first fights. I mean, would you even break even if you're tested, on your first fight? If you have to pay for testing,
you'd like to think that. Well, they don't pay for UCAD testing, do they, Jack?
As far as I'm aware, that's part of your license fee.
Right. So until they get to a point where they're fighting for titles, VADA testing probably isn't even involved.
VADA's only involved on a show. As I say, like with AJ, he will pay for the whole card, allegedly. This is allegedly because I don't 100% know this is true, but this is what I've been led to believe. And I believe Fury's done this before as well, where they pay for all the undercard fights to be subject to VADA testing.
I mean, there's no way
£2 million or £1 million through the card for everyone to be VADA tested. The fighters won't pay, but that will come out of the show budget for them to do that.
I was about to say, there's no way Eddie Hearn's making an undercard fighter that he might be paying 10 grand to.
No, he's not doing it like that.
There's no way he's making them pay for their own testing.
But the reason I say AJ does it is because Eddie Hearn always says, and if you notice, it's always in association with AJ Boxing. Yeah. So AJ Boxing would be the ones paying for that, not anybody else.
Right.
It wouldn't be the individual fighter, I don't think, in that situation. Whereas someone like, I don't know, say it was just a main event and Dubois and Joyce decided to have it, they might pay for it. Or Warren might pay for it, or Warren promotes both of them, but whoever's promoter might pay for it. I think Dubois wanted it against Trevor Bryan, I believe.
Yeah. So
I think he would have paid for that.
Cheers, Jack. On that note, I think we'll bring it to a close, guys. Been on for about an hour and a half, so. Myself and Andy got a big interview tonight that transatlantic interview. It sounds all glamorous, don't it? So, Andy, do you want to
are they sending you to Vegas?
No, it's virtual. We haven't got the budget for that yet, Jack. We're not on matchmakers' money like you, fella.
I'm not on enough money, trust me. European title fight, and I'm
welling up here, welling up. Go on, Andy, take us out.
Very strange show tonight. Not our usual show. I've got it all lined up here. We're going to talk about the old card, as we normally do, but that obviously went straight out the window today when the announcement came out. Thanks for everybody for getting involved again as normal. Always a great show with the comments in the sidebar. And good that you don't have the same opinions as well. That's what this show's all about. Thanks for joining us. Come back next week. Usual time, 7 o'clock Thursday night.